Welcome to Black History 365 to Throwdown, a series where I explain, educate, and explore historical events, unsung black figures in world history, and recount the struggles and triumphs of black people worldwide. I'm your host, Yusuf Fursi, and in this episode, I'll be presenting the story of Jack Johnson. The first black heavyweight champion, John Arthur Jack Johnson, was born on March 31st, 1878 in Galveston, Texas. The son of ex-slaves and the third of 9 children, Johnson possessed an air of confidence and drive to exceed beyond the hardscrabble life his parents had known. After a few years of school, Johnson went to work as a laborer to help support his family. A good deal of his childhood, in fact, was spent working on boats in Galveston. By the age of 16, Johnson was on his own, traveling to New York and later Boston before returning to his hometown. Johnson's first fight came around this time. His opponent was a fellow longshoresman, and while the purse wasn't much, just $1.50, Johnson jumped at the chance and won the fight. Not long after, he earned $25, managing to stick out 4 rounds against professional boxer Bob Thompson. Eager to get out of Galveston and try to forge a life around boxing, Johnson left his home again in 1899. By the early 1900s, the 6'2" Johnson, who had become known as the Galveston Giant, had made a name for himself in the black boxing circuit and had his eyes set on the world heavyweight title, which was held by white boxer Jim Jeffries. But Jeffries refused to fight him. He wasn't alone. White boxers would not spar with their black counterparts. But Johnson's talents and bravado were too hard to ignore. Finally, on December 26, 1908, the flamboyant Johnson, who often taunted his opponents as he beat them soundly, got his chance for the title when champion Tommy Burns fought him outside of Sydney, Australia. Burns, who had succeeded Jeffries as champion, had only agreed to fight Johnson after promoters guaranteed him $30,000. The fight, which novelist Jack London attended and wrote about for a New York newspaper, lasted until the 14th round, when police stepped in and ended it. Johnson was named the winner. From there, Johnson continued his calls for Jeffries to step into the ring with him. On July 4th, 1910, he finally did. Dubbed the fight of the century, more than 22,000 eager fans turned out for the bout, held in Reno, Nevada. After 15 rounds, Johnson came away victorious, affirming his domain over boxing and further angering white boxing fans who hated seeing a black man sit atop the sport. Jeffries was humbled by the loss and what he'd seen of his opponent. He went on to say, quote, "I could never have whipped Johnson at my best," Jeffries said. "I couldn't have hit him. No, I couldn't have even reached him in 1,000 years. For the fight, Johnson earned a purse of $17,000. It would be 5 years before he relinquished the heavyweight title, when Johnson fell to Jess Willard in a 26-round bout in Havana, Cuba. Johnson continued to fight for another 12 years, hanging up his gloves for good at the age of 50. As Johnson became a bigger name in the sport of boxing, he also became a bigger target for white America that longed to see him ruined. For his part, Johnson loved to brandish his wealth and his disdain for racial rules. He dated white women, drove lavish cars, and spent money freely. But trouble was always lurking. In 1912, he was convicted of violating the Mann Act for bringing his white girlfriend around state lines before their marriage. Sentenced to prison, he fled to Europe, remaining there as a fugitive for 7 years. He returned to the United States in 1920 and ultimately served out his sentence. His life came to an unfortunate end on June 10th, 1946, when he died in an automobile accident in Raleigh, North Carolina. Since his death, Johnson's life and career have undergone a major rehabilitation. His alleged crimes are now seen as the result of racial bias in law enforcement. In 1990, he was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, and his life was the subject of the acclaimed Ken Burns documentary, Unforgivable Blackness. And the blog and click on the tab Black History for my written blog posts on previous episodes. The show is made possible by Anchor, which is providing a great and easy-to-use service for new and seasoned podcasters. If you enjoy learning something new from the show, then make sure to subscribe on Spotify or whichever platforms you listen to your podcasts on. By doing this, you'll stay up to date with my future episodes. And remember that Black history should be learned about and celebrated every day and not just in 28 days. So stay educated and thank you for listening. I'm your host, Yusuf Fursi, and until the next episode, peace.